Should we get started? Let's see if this is working. Hello. Hello, hello. G'day, Edward. G'day, Ace, I'd say, and hello, Het. Awesome. Thanks for joining. How is everyone? Excited for some Monday CAD learning. Hello, Monty. How's it going? Guys, let me know if you can hear me all right. No music or audio levels here to worry about too much like Toby's streams. I've tried music previously and it just it was all copyrighted material, so it kind of killed the stream. So I want to avoid that. Awesome. Cool. All right. Beautiful. Well, let's get started. Ace, I'm glad you're here because we're going to have a look at some of your work, your fine work on Friday's tournament. Now I have prepared, and for all my streams this year, I think one of my aims is to be a bit more prepared, to increase the quality, make them better, be more specific about what people can learn or expect in those streams if they jump on or if they watch the replay afterwards. So I'll take you through what I'm planning to do today. Let me just open this one up over here. And I won't go full slideshow mode, but I will talk about a few points that I'm going to cover off in today's stream. Hello, Guntus. Welcome to the stream. And I'd say, don't worry. No, won't be diving into or too critical of people's mistakes. And I've actually made a point of that here. So, for anyone watching this stream or the replay, this is what you can expect me to cover off in the next 2 hours or so. We are learning from the pros. So we were very fortunate to have 2 SolidWorks professionals and 2 certified SolidWorks experts in the tournament on Friday. It just so happened that 2 pros and the 2 experts were matched up against each other. So I thought very even matches. And I was on holidays at the time, woke up early that day and just thought I would jump on to see what was going on. And I was very glad that I did because I got to see some awesome matches. So inspired by those 4 guys, I thought this would be a perfect time to just do a sort of live reaction review of their models. We're not going to look at every single minute of that live stream. That would take too long, but we will zoom into certain aspects where it's useful. And the whole point of it is to see what we can learn from others. In my sort of own journey the last couple of years, as I've improved my own SolidWorks performance and efficiency day to day, and in speed modeling and the competitions and that kind of thing, the main way I did that was actually through looking at what other people were doing with their modeling. So particularly the monthly leaderboards, sometimes the qualifications. I even using different software. One I can remember in particular was Airwick, who would use Onshape, and he'd do a lot of open contours and contour selection. And then once I started trying that in my own workflow, I found that it was much quicker and much more efficient for certain aspects of building projects and products. And so I could not only start to use that in the kind of competition entries or the speed modeling, but in day-to-day like concept work, okay, not detailed design work, but let's say concepts. When I'm doing quick designs and quick prototypes, I could use that kind of sketching and feature building method, and it became really useful. So yeah, we're going to see what we might be able to learn or pick up from these guys today. It's not going to be critical in any way. I have the fortunate experience to have been in these live competitions. I came second in the World Champs to Rambros 2024. I haven't been able to enter any competitions for the last year or so, just given time zones, but I know what it's like and how difficult it is to be doing it live. So any mistakes that are made, we're not harping on those. What we're trying to look at is from the educational point of view, how we can learn from what we've seen those guys do, or we might learn where they might have gone one method and then changed during the process. Okay, so what can we bring from that and how can we bring that back? And the whole aim out of this is try and work out what tip you can take from this session to make you 1% faster for the rest of your career or hobby or speed modeling or whatever it is that you do. But that 1% might not seem like much today, but if you take that over 10 years and you add a few more 1% over time, it makes you a lot faster and more efficient. And that's what I've been doing for the last, let's say, decade plus. All right, so here's what we're going to look at content-wise. We've got 6 models, all tier 4 and above, tier 5 and 2 tier 6s. And we're going to go through the order, same order that they were on the stream, which is roughly the order you can see on screen here. I think the more difficult ones are in the middle. but we'll see how we go. We're going to skip ahead to look at the end of the feature trees of the guys competing, and just make some assessments on how they've gone building the model. I have built all 6 of these models already. I did record these live. I will probably post them at a later point. We will go through and rebuild these tutorials if we think it's useful. So I have had a go, and I have had trouble particularly with the ladle. So I have a bit of an understanding there, but yeah, we'll try and see what we can learn from how the guys differentiated in their approaches. We'll zoom in on the tricky spots that the runners encountered. So that's where we might go to some of the replay. We can speed up, slow down, and just see what they did, if there were any particular tools that they liked. And this is where I would recommend anyone with a question wanting to point out or ask a particular point. Okay, if you see someone do something in one of the streams, or you watched the live stream originally, you had a question about what one of the runners was using, let me know and we'll go to that point, and I'll be able to explain a bit more about their workflow or their process. We're going to look at potential improvements. So for Artse going into the finals, this is one where he might be able to take some tips from it. He's pretty good already, but a few little tricks that might help him. But for everyone else, it's more like day-to-day stuff, or your other speed modeling entries, competitions, etc. Practice. Where can we take those improvements? We'll do a tutorial for each of the models, and we'll do that times 6. We probably won't spend the same amount of time on all of them. I think in particular the tray, that's a very quick model, so that might only be a 10-minute one, but we'll just see how we go. I'm going to go through all 6, however long as it takes. And last thing there, open Q&A throughout, so if you've got any questions throughout the stream, just pop them in the chat. I'll get to them. All right. So, is that clear? Everyone understand? We'll get a good idea of what we're looking at. If I have any questions to start off, I'll note them down as we go, and I'll try and get into them as we get to those points in the, I guess, looking at the competitors and what they did, the runners. All quiet, so let's get into it. All right, and we'll try and go sort of full screen for these. Now, let's jump into the stream. The first one, Artse, we'll jump in and see just how you went. Minus the audio, and maybe we'll see how my head goes. If I need to move that position, we will. All right, now I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to skip ahead to the end. I'm not going to be too critical of the start, but there are some tips that I'll pick up and suggest as we get closer. All right, just going to find that endpoint, which is around here. Now, unfortunately, we can't see all of Matab's feature tree. We'll just see if that comes through in the next few seconds, but we can see how Ace has done this model. And what I will bring up on screen is the drawing, so we can compare that with his feature tree. And Artse, why don't I just give you the right to suggest any changes you would have done in hindsight to this model. I can see some things, or 4 things immediately, but you might have an idea already about how you would approach that slightly differently. Or if you just want to hear what I've got to say, we can just do that too. I'm happy either way. But I know it's like you compete yourself. You might win, lose, but you'll be like, oh, I should have done these things. And yeah, it can make a big difference. All right, so while we wait to see if Artse has anything to say here, on his feature tree, we can see he's done an extrude for the top section. He's done the extrude for the bottom. He's then done the full pattern shell cut And then those 4 move faces are what he did to join up the edges where the face draft matches the deeper pocket. Let's see what he's got to say. No, you don't have to do a model, I'd say. Easy, mate. I've already done the model, so no stress there. The process he used, if we flick through, I think it's worthwhile flicking through a couple of points here. So there was a bit of cleanup from both on the outer profile. I think on that point of view there, if we're now sort of getting into the some of the areas to address, they both kind of missed, and I missed this originally too. In the drawing here, now let me edit this so I can put some lines on it. I'm going to use a bright green marker, actually purple marker. This edge here and this 19, this one actually, and this edge here actually got people into trouble because right off the bat, both guys thought this was an arc all the way around and didn't allow for that straight section. And so once you've done that arc and done this fillet, that caused them to go back and change things. And because as well, neither of them, I think, used the symmetry, that meant that there was lots of extra work that had to be done. Yeah. So that was one thing that we could pick out pretty early. And that's what I'd say is going through here. I'm just going to increase this speed. All right. And I can see just on the left, we can see a bit of Metab's feature tree here. So Metab, extrude, fillet, extrude, cut, split, shell, mirror, pattern. He's got a lot of probably unnecessary features there. And this comes down to a workflow thing. Yeah, Arte says that one was the brain breaker, but I noticed the green and yellow color later. Yeah, so this is particular to the drawing. And this is where Toby has put a green color on that curved edge and a yellow here, so that users can identify that they're different faces and that it's not like a single curve all the way around. If you didn't have that green face there and these little lines, you would kind of expect that was a curve. But this 19-degree angle is the giveaway. Reset. We'll come back to that. All right. So you can see the way that, you know, Metab kind of went through this process. He actually got the pattern. He got the 8 parts or the 10 kind of cube trays done, and then he was drawing or redrawing the extrude on the outside. And we can see on the right what Artse's issue was matching up these edges. Right, and I've got a little trick that I think he can use next time. So he did use, you know, quite a useful kind of tool for hacking a model, which is the move face tool. Move face lets you, you know, offset, translate, rotate, etc. And he was doing it by offsetting the face up to the next surface, so the surface that's below. It was repetitive because he had to do it 4 times. All right, but that was a way to address the mismatch of the draft between the two. He did get the right answer, I think, first attempt though, so that was excellent. And so, you know, you can't be too critical of that. For both of them, you know, the suggestions, I'm trying to look here how I believe Ace did the extrudes on the bottom, and I think he did it with a draft. Yep. So when he was going through this feature here, actually that's the pattern. So he's done well to get the rectangle in here, the right size. Metab's doing something similar on the left, but the issue with what Metab's doing, this is a very good kind of example here. Metab's done the draft from the side view, but it means once he does the extrude out, he has to add another separate draft to get the other two sides to match. But because Artsay has done the sketch on that bottom plane and he extrudes straight up, the draft is the same on each side, he's able to include that draft in that feature. So that's a really, like, efficiency-wise, when you're thinking about the process, you can see Metab here having to go through a separate second stage of sketches to cut to remove those angles. Artsay's got it here. You can see he's putting that 10-degree draft there, and so it's all done. So one step for Artsay, 2 steps for Metab. I think that's actually one of the best ones. Now this has a 4x speed. I don't know what the P means. I've got a premium. Okay, maybe next time. So we'll just skip through a little bit more, and then I'll show you some of the other tricks that I think we could do to speed this up. So the last one would be this stage. I'll focus a bit more on Artsay's here. So at this point, Artsay has done the outer shape, but he now has to do the cut and then get it to match up with the size or with the draft angle from those parts that have already been shelled out. So I'd say my suggestion here is you could have skipped those 4 move faces by putting the draft into your cut extrude. All right. And the way to do that is put your cut extrude at a different plane. So instead of on the top plane like you've done, if you put it on that bottom face and then you're cutting through outwards, but instead of cutting straight up like you did, like you cut from the top and you went straight down and then you had to move them. If you had that sketch on the bottom face, you cut up but then you cut out with the 10-degree draft angle, the edges would match, you wouldn't have to do any extra work, and then you'd be done. Very easy, yeah. So let me now show you, I think that's everything we can pick up from these models and from what these guys learned. Let me show you now the process that I would suggest to build this kind of file. And I'll keep the drawing here as reference. If I need to bring it up, I'll just bring that one up to the side. So first off, I was a little bit surprised that neither guy went for just doing a quarter of the extrude to start. And if they had have done this, it would have made it a lot easier to edit the sketch and put this straight line in afterwards. Reason being, you only have to do it in one place instead of in 4 places. It was actually the same process that I had, where I missed that straight line to start. So once I did this sketch, I had to come back and put that straight line in afterwards. So I'll show you how to do that. Yeah. I'll show you how to do that now. So let me just roll this down and I'll put this in attempt 1. I still think there's some ways I could do this one slightly quicker. So we'll have a go at that now. So on the top plane, we're going to still going to start with a quarter. You could actually also start with the pattern on the bottom, kind of the way that Metab did it. I think that would work just as well, maybe even better. But it's not, you could do either one and it'd still be okay. I'm going to do 124 divided by 2 and then 330 divided by 2. I'm then going to use a tangent arc. Now this is how I did it myself. I did something like this. Okay, and then later I had to come in and trim that back to put in the straight line there, like that. So put that straight line in, and that straight line lets you then do the 19-degree angle. This center line, center point needs to be coincident here. We can put in that radius, the 110. Okay, now that whole quadrant's fully defined, then we just get that radius of 15. All right, and then extrude. Now I think it's useful here to extrude up. I'm going to get 8, because then you can still use the top plane, which is here, to do the parts that are going down underneath. Now this is where, in my first attempt, I probably took longer than needed, because I was trying to work out the exact position to get one in the middle. And it just took me a little while to read and work out the gaps where here you've got the 4 spacing, 54, 38. But in the end, I think that was the correct way of doing it. So it's top plane again. Do your rectangle. You want to get your dimensions right. I've already forgotten them here. It is 54 by 38. Put a 2mm dimension in the gap. And then you can get the midpoint of this and put it on this line. And then we're going to extrude this one down. Now, if you can't work out the maths, 39 minus 1, you can also just do offset from surface, put in that dimension, 39, put in this surface, and reverse offset, reverse direction, uncheck that. Also, uncheck merge result, and then draft angles, draft at 10 degrees. So that one is very quick and easy. We can then shell, and the shell is going to be consistent. The wall thickness is 4mm. And because it's got a flat face on the top, that's going to work quite well. The 245mm dimensions at lower left corner allow you to not start in the middle, but start from the end. Yep. Yeah, that would be right too. And I think starting on the end would actually be easier, because then you're just doing a pattern one direction. I think in the end, the way I did it here is I did my kind of full pattern, and then I did some cuts and I mirrored some stuff at the end. You could do either way. Let me continue here and try and do this quickly. So then there's nowhere here that really says the distance between them. You have to work it out. Oh, you got the 42. I think the 42 is the one that does it. So if we take a linear pattern, we can go this edge, we can say this body, we go 42, and we want to do 4 of those. Okay. And then our last step, top plane. We're going to cut everything from the middle, but we're only going to cut to this corner here. That is the inside face. So this is where changing to the hidden lines or to the wireframe helps. I'll change back to extrude cut. This time I'm going to go through all, but I'm going to draft outward. And see those faces now match. And so then here I can combine everything. And I think I'm missing something I'm missing here. Or something that I've done wrong that's a bit different from my first one. So I'll have to work that out. Might have to come back to that. Let's do the rest of the mirror first, and then I'll fix that up. I believe there's still a detail that I'm missing. So I'm merging both. But yeah, I've got that little gap there that's not intentional. I think it's the depth, 8mm, yeah. I went too low. So the cut down is 4. So I have to do that a little bit different. And perhaps that's the thing that I changed in the first time around. Attempt 2, let's just roll back. I'll show you how I've done it the first time, where we've done quarter extrude, we've done one pattern, I've done a solid shell, then I've done a pattern of 4 of them. That's the difference here. I did the cut through all first, just the holes. That was a little bit slow. Then a combine, mirror, and then the last cut. Yeah. All right, just recall how I did it. Okay, so this cut here doesn't happen yet. I'm just correcting myself. So I'm on this top plane. And this is one where if I have doing 4 of these, so there might be a quicker way of doing this section. I think this is the step that I missed before that was then causing me issues. Okay, that looks much better. Combine, mirror, put that cut. All right, so all that's looking good there. Then this cut needs to completely change. All right, this is the main step. I thought Arte could have saved some time, otherwise it did really well. Is we go down and we can see those edges. So this second line here. Just change that. Am I in the right spot? I'm not sure if I'm remembering it right from when I did it last night. Have a look on this one. This cut extrude. It's on that top edge. Yeah, it just matches the existing edges. Okay, that's where I was going wrong. So this edge is on here. All right, then I cut it down. Come down 4 millimeters, draft 10 degrees, and there we match. That is the very quick way to do that one. So only a slight efficiency gain. Yeah. Okay. So let's wrap that one up and have a look at the next model, which was what do we have next? It was the lantern. Let's see how the guys went at doing these ones. We'll get a little bit of audio as well.
Up to a surface with the direct editing condition there to get those 4 walls to match up as they're supposed to match up with the draft of the pockets. And that's very much the type of thing you'll run into with customers. Well, you'll give them the final result. Say from North Macedonia, he was our runner-up in the system. And so here we go.
Maybe not. Not so good with the speed. All right. So let's have a look at this one. This was the lantern. Cancel that. Much more complex model. Tier 6. Inches. Could be done in a number of ways. It has a pattern, but not the usual kind of pattern where it's circular pattern. You can still use the circular pattern tool, but you'll have 6 instances instead of 4. There are probably ways to do this in one section and then repeat it, but I think the approach of the guys to really just build it up was right. And in the end, I think the winner was the one, I'd say obviously won it, but I think that came down to just being more accurate and ever so slightly more efficient with some of the moves on the way out. I noticed that Matab missed the full shell or the cut through the bottom of this hex here throughout. The whole thing can kind of be built with a series of extrudes, an extrude up or either a loft, but you've got the 8-degree angles here, so you could use extrude up 6, 8-degree out. Again, another couple of extrudes, a revolve, and then 2 revolves at the top, and then an extrude cut on the sides. So it's really a lot of simple steps, but all stacked up, one on top of the other. Let's see how they went about it in sort of a speed mode. So both of them starting in the similar points. I believe one of them, maybe I'd say started at the top. Here, Matab used a created reference geometry plane. That's one place where I saw that, where I try and avoid that now in my everyday work. I actually do a lot more modeling, or in my project work, I try to avoid creating new reference planes. Instead, generally, I'll use an offset feature in the sketch or in the extrude itself. Because in this one, like his offset here for this 6 millimeters, you don't need to offset. You can just, if you know the dimension, which you've got 4 hex here, and you know the angle, which is the 8 degrees, you can just draw your hex, extrude 6, draft angle 8 out, and that will work out, you know, that offset plane. You don't need to actually go ahead and create a plane there. So yeah, he did that loft in the end, but whether he needed, did he actually even use that sketch? Yeah, he did. He created a sketch on that plane and then did a loft between them. Still works, but you could do it a little bit quicker without it. I'd say he's done a loft as well. Similar thing, but I think that loft at the top, I think that's more warranted because I don't think there's an angle anywhere shown for that one. So that makes a lot more sense to me to do one in that top section. All right, let's just skip ahead a little bit. So we're seeing here, I'd say doing that middle section, the kind of the cage section, and he's done his shell feature, but he just missed, and I think he was rushing on the shell feature. He missed selecting the bottom face of that, so he's just shelled from the top, and it's left that material on the bottom of that shell, which has caused him to have some extra thickness there that he shouldn't have. Meanwhile, Artse's going through and doing all the different extrudes that he needs. Already done the pattern. Here, doing the dimensions for the 2 revolves at the top. Semicircle dimension from the origin, perfect way to do the sphere revolve. And then again, he's got another construction line for the last one. I think this was a really smart, I think this was a really smart way to do it. I actually did this one with a revolve, I believe, but I think doing the sweep, I know you got the dimension wrong originally, but I think doing the sweep with the circular profile was really efficient there, and the best way to do it. And I think that answer was right. No, maybe not. No, had some work to do. And this is where I think there was one feature that was off by 0.1 of a millimeter, which we don't need to listen or come back to. But still, 6 minutes, super quick to get to this point. So well done to both guys. Now they've both used, I think, very similar features. So you can see extrudes, loft shell, pattern, couple of extrudes, a revolve and a sweep. For Artse, for Matab, a couple of extrudes. He's got that plane in there. I said we probably could skip. Extrude, shell, cut, pattern. He's got a combine feature, which I wasn't quite sure what that combine feature was. If he had multi-body, he could just leave it. If everything in the part file is the same material, you don't need to go through and combine the bodies. It'll just work out fine. The only place you would need to combine them is if they were intersecting and then you had double up material. But otherwise, if they were just coincident, that wouldn't be a problem. The first extrude was 2-directional. Yeah, I think that's right. And you fixed that up at the end here. Yep. And then you had the right answer, which was 23.7. You can see my tab is over. And I'm pretty sure he's over just because he's got that little bit of extra material in that bottom section. Yeah, gotcha. That would have been really smart, actually. So I'd say his point here is this top section of the roof. If you just draw that hex, the 2 hex, you could extrude up, one up 0.5 and the other one down 2, but you don't have the angle for the one that is going down. You'd have to manually work it out, which would take extra time. Like you could do it, but it wouldn't be a very efficient move. Yeah. So, like I think the main takeaway from this one is the use of. Gotcha. Main takeaway from this: the use of the right tools at the right steps. So, deciding between extrudes, because this is using a lot of features: extrudes, lofts, shells, cuts, patterns, revolves, sweeps. It's got the 4 main boss types all in one model. So you don't actually see that often. I mentioned you could do that top ring with a revolve too, but the sweep is good. I actually really like that approach. So let's flip over and we'll have a look at a tutorial for this one. And you can see the way I've built it here. Similar, but a little bit different. I have one loft here. Yes, he definitely could have. I don't actually think I would change much from what these guys did. I built mine up from the bottom. All right, and we probably, because this seemed like a pretty easy model for most, I think once we understood the process, we won't spend too much time on it. We get a hex on the bottom with a 6. One thing I did do, I used some offsets, but that was a bit risky. And I had to do some maths. You could just sketch them and dimension them individually. So I built up the bottom one. Here's the one where I skipped doing the plane. So I worked out here the 6mm difference. So I made sure that this sketch was on this face. And then when I extruded this one, it was offset here 6 inches and then extruding up 0.5. All right. And then the boss extrude in between. So I didn't, like I said, I didn't use a lot for this one. I knew the angle, the 8-degree angle. And I knew the bottom hex, so that is a simple extrude up. And I did the extrude. One way I could have done this quicker, I believe, is actually change the order of these two. So change this one to just go blind, 6 inches. And do that 1 second. All right, then I wouldn't even have to do this offset. I could just sketch that on this face and extrude it as normal from the sketch plane. That would be a quicker process. I would have to make sure I'm not merging, which I don't think I am. So when it comes time to the shell, this is a little tip. It depends on your hotkeys. I have I for isolate. So I click on this, press the I key, and it's going to isolate this body. So then when I need to shell, I can very quickly select top and bottom to get rid of that material. Whereas in the video, what Matab did, he was here and he shelled here, but he had no way to get visibility of that bottom face to select it. Maybe he would have a shortcut if he needed to for that. But that definitely helps. So that body is then shelled out. Then we then select a face. This is a simple sketch on the face, offset 0.25, cut through. I then created an axis. So my axis is between the front and the right planes. And what that axis does here, that lets me use a circular pattern for my cuts. Then I'm finishing with the top. So again, I think like I'd say is noted, there's no dimension for the angle of these faces. So it's a loft between the two. Now if we have a look at them, if I try and work out what the angle is of that face, it is a 48.366 angle. So it's not one that would, it wouldn't be quick to calculate from anything else. And then at the top, so I've done a revolve, very similar. I didn't bother about trimming away, I just selected contour, and then I did a second revolve here with a line, 2 construction lines and the small circle for the end answer of 23.7. So great job on that one, Ace. Well done, very, very deserving of his spot in the finals. So wish him plenty of luck next Friday, and bad luck to Matab, but he's definitely getting better very quickly. All right, I'm going to save that one. Anyone watching, have any comments on any of those? Feel free. Let me know. Jump in the chat. Let me know what you think. We've got, okay, so that's through the first 2 guys. We have 4 models left, and some of the harder ones, I reckon, particularly the next, was it the next one? I think it was. And how are we tracking for time? Right on time, beautiful. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, which was the warm soup ladle. This was this one a push? Did anyone get this one right? Did Ricardo get it right? Can't remember. Let's go and check the video. And I'll skip through and we'll skip to the end. No, this one was the push. No one got it right. And it went for 15 minutes, 14 minutes. So it was definitely a big challenge, this one. And on this one, I will agree with these guys. You can see even with the benefit of being able to see them do it, have the answer, understand some of the tricky parts. My first attempt, I still got this wrong. The mass of this was 591. But the answer, and I think Artsay got the answer. Oops, not that one. The answer was 592.4. So it did take me 2 goes. So let's have a look at what the approach from these guys. I think it's definitely a good one to pick through a little, and we can see it really well on this screen. And then come back and see. We'll definitely do a slower tutorial for this one because it is a much more difficult model. So first thing to know, it's interesting, both guys with the user interface, they use a flat view for their feature trees. And a flat view means, cool latte. All right, we'll have a look at that. The flat view means that they can each see the sketches, right? So you see they've got sketch revolve, like on Cardo here, sketch revolve, sketch cut, split, cut, sketch cut, feature, sketch. All right. And Dom's got the same thing, whereas typically for most people they'll have the drop down arrows. This is a view setting. I don't know if it has any benefit for speed modeling. Perhaps it does. Yeah, probably does actually. So it's under tree display. So you right click here on the menu and you go tree display, show flat tree view. And then it just hides all your folders and it brings out any sketch and it just puts it in order. So it's like a history, very much a history tracker rather than an actual feature tree with features grouped or what's it called, consumed by certain features. So this lets you see the exact process. Now I've got two sets of features here. So it's a bit different. My middle point is here. So if I just roll this up, this is my first attempt. So very similar, but that's how you can change that setting. Now that might help in speed modeling just because you can see everything, but I don't know. I'm not convinced. But it's just a useful tip for anyone that didn't know it was there. And now as for the process, so I'll just skip through here, but to summarize, both guys started with the round part at the bottom. And in starting with the round part at the bottom, it meant that you're kind of sketching the straight part here. So the handle, which has this really nice side view, this detail shot, and this front view with all the detail, means you're doing that second and trying to get it to match up. And I think that's makes it much more difficult. Hello, Vignesh, welcome. I'm happy to tell you what we're doing. Have a look in the description below. But what we're doing is learning from a bunch of pros, certified pros, certified experts who were in Two Tall Toby's competition last Friday. And they did these models, and we're going through and assessing their workflows to see what we can learn from those guys. And then I'll do some tutorials about how to build each of these models. We're about 2/3 of the way through. We're up to this number 3 right here. Thanks for joining us. If you've got any questions, just let me know. So on this ladle, you know, when you start with the curve section at the bottom, it just makes it more difficult to match these elements up. And I think what kind of got lost and where I think I had issues was this 30 to the virtual sharp at the top. I think that's where the errors were. All right. So if we have a look back through their process here, and we'll just jump and skip through a few things. I'll press play on this. So they've started similarly. I'd say the one thing for Dom compared to Ricardo here, he should have started this circle on the origin or done something to fully define it earlier instead of having to drag it. Putting it on the origin meant Ricardo could just use some of those planes a bit easier as well. Interesting though, Ricardo had to do the 2-step, actually 3, whereas I really like Dom's approach of the thin feature revolve of the bottom section. That is definitely the more efficient way of doing this. So Dom, it takes him a little while. He sets up the thickness for the thin feature. He sets up the revolve point, but it's one feature. If he had the sketch in the right place to start, I think he would have had that feature done a lot quicker than Ricardo. But they're both essentially at the same point right here. So a minute 24 in, they're both at the same place. And now it's working out how to do that next sketch. Now Dom's got the right idea, starting with or joining on that bottom section, but it has to be a curve, and he just missed that first off, whereas Ricardo's got that straight line. But again, similar positions. So we'll just skip through. Now I do like Dom's idea here to make it wide and then cut away the material. Whereas I think if we see Ricardo hasn't gone as wide, he ends up having to go a bit thicker. And for both guys, I think when they're getting to this top section, you can see Ricardo's starting to do it now. Dom's starting to do it now as well. doing those top arcs, getting those dimensions right, and then doing those radiuses is where they get into trouble with getting the dimension correct around this pink note, the 30 to the virtual sharp. So for anyone that is not aware of what the virtual sharp means, let's just flick over here and have a look. All right. So if I look at this sketch, the virtual sharp is the corner point that no longer exists once you put the fillet in, the radius in. You can actually see this. There's a few ways you can see it, but let's just do it like this. Let me just brighten up this image quickly. Okay. If I put a sketch on this face and I just put a point out here, and I make that point coincident with this arc and with this line, that is my virtual sharp. All right. And so that's what helps give like a dimension to something like this. So the way the guys did it though, if that point is not right there at 15, it becomes a lot smaller. It actually had quite a big effect on the mass, probably bigger than Toby expected. And that's what would cut and cause them both issues, I believe. So if we have a look here, Ricardo's already got the fillet in place in the sketch. And then he's trying to get that coincident with the edge. I don't think it quite works, right? Because this next line is actually supposed to be angled. Dom's trying a very similar thing. Okay, he's got the 30 at the top. But it's not quite, I don't believe it's quite perfect enough to get the right answers. So I think the rest of it, their approach was pretty much the same. You know, they're doing it slightly differently with extrudes both ways. Aaron C in the chat here with a great recommendation after the guys had passed this, that this is for an indent tool. This is the perfect place to use it. The indent tool lets you take one body and use that to subtract material from another without removing the body. So it's different from the combine tool. With a combine tool, if you use combine and a subtract, when you subtract the body, that body disappears. All right, the one that you're using to subtract. But using the indent tool, that doesn't happen. The body stays there. So in this kind of example, it's perfect. You could do an indent for the handle, for the metal part into the wood. Keep all the wood there, keep the metal there, just remove the part that is overlapping. All right. It was really funny how Ricardo, same answer twice. But yeah, tricky model. So good stuff to learn from these guys. Let's have a look now at the tutorial. And for this tutorial, we'll go nice and slow. All right. I will keep in this file up for reference. All right, I'd say use the indent cut just for fun, but I think it's different contour extrude is faster. Fair? Could be. Could be. All right, so my two attempts were done in two different, quite different ways. My first attempt was doing the revolve at the bottom first, and then building up. Let me show you. So my first attempt, I started with a thin revolve like Dom, and then built up little by little. Now, the first time I did this, I didn't really see the dimensions I needed. So I think that probably cost me some time in putting this together. But I've done sort of all the parts here, and if I make this transparent, so you can see through, the metal's inside. I then did my angle, right? And you can see then I'm having to do another little extrude down the bottom. Now, I believe that I had this dimension correct. Right? I've got 30 to the virtual sharp, but somewhere in this one, I've made a mistake, and I think it was down here. Yeah. This bit here, these are supposed to be parallel, not up to the face. So that's where I went wrong with this first attempt. I didn't see it until now. I did an indent at the end to remove that material, but you could just as easily, like Arte says, do a cut. Let's have a look at my second attempt, because I thought that this was actually a little bit, maybe a little bit quicker. This is where I did all the handle in one sketch to start. So I did the wood part up to vertex would be correct, yes. I did the metal, I did indent, I put the fillet on the outside, which I could have done in the sketch. Then I had to do 2 mirrors, and I think doing 2 mirrors probably slows this one down a little bit. I then had to do a little extra extrude at the end, and then the revolve thin. So this is okay. There's probably even maybe a slight way to improve the efficiency of this, but let's just give it another go and go through it in a tutorial fashion. So I'm just going to bring this across and put our image up here. All right, and we'll hide both of these and start with a fresh one. So I'm going to go on. Can't you do 1 mirror? Recognize which one to merge. Good question. Good question. Let's see. If I do front plane, mirror, bodies, merge, tick, tick. Sorry, I used the wrong plane. Right plane. Yeah, I'd say you are right. Nice one. Okay, that would be quicker. Much quicker. That is definitely a legacy thing that I've had and never picked up on. But, you know, there's my tip that's going to make me 1% faster for the rest of forever. So thank you very much. Just have to fix this sketch now. Take a second. Okay, so only 1 mirror. That means that could be pretty quick. This one up to vertex on this side. Okay, cool. All right, let me show you how I've done my sketch. So we started on the front plane, and we're looking at everything on this front view. And for the origin, I'm using the 130 dimension. And what I was trying to do was only do half of this because I thought it would be quicker. I still think it probably is quicker. So I'm going to start a line here. We're going to go all the way up. So you can see there's a 130 and then a 120, which means we can go 250 up to the top. And keep that line. And at the bottom, I don't know this dimension. I'm just going to draw it out. But then I'm going to draw this angle all the way up. And then if I can get it right here, I can get an arc. Don't want it tangent. I'm going to bring that back here and bring that up there. And there's a few ways you can sketch those. You just want to get it on and get it fully defined. It doesn't really matter too much how. So I'm going 15 there. I also want to put in that hole. The hole is 11 and it is 16 from the top. So having that sketch up all the way up the middle means it's a bit quicker to do some of those dimensions. And then I'm going to draw in 2 lines here. I'm going to have a solid line here. This one is at 130 from the bottom. And the 131, bottom of the wood, that's the wooden handle. That's going to be the 11 dimension, and that sets my angle. And then if I want to, I can draw the second line in, dimension that as well, and just keep that there. That's for how high the metal comes up. So I think that's everything in my sketch. I can then extrude, and I want to go mid-plane, 4 millimeters. Actually, I'm not going mid-plane, I'm going to go, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter, mid-plane. I was thinking, does it matter for the ladle shape at the bottom, but it doesn't, because that has a little curved sketch that's going to be added to it. So go mid-plane for this one, and then you just choose which part you're going to do first. I've picked 4 millimeters, so I'm doing the metal part, so it's these two. Press OK. And then I want to select that contour again and extrude. This one's going to go mid-plane, but 18. And I'm selecting these contours. Uncheck merge. This is where I didn't have this in earlier. I should have put it in. The fillet should actually have it in this sketch here. There's no reason not to. So we can indent now. So this is the indent tool. So indent, target body is the outside, tool body is the handle bit at the bottom, and press cut. Now indent's really handy as well if you need a certain distance offset from the edge, like 0.5. It'll do it all the way around it. We don't need that, so I'll just leave it at 0. Okay, let's cut that for me. Then I can mirror, select both bodies and merge. Okay, beautiful. That seems really quick, right? To apply materials, you can right click here and go material. And I know it's American Cherry, I just haven't added that one in yet. Plain carbon steel. So that's my materials done. Now I've got that last bottom section to do, so right plane. I'm going to do it's an arc. Now there's a few tricks to this one. We want this to be tangent. We want this one to match the thickness. It's 4 mil. So I'm going to go 4. I'm going to go reverse, cap ends, lines, okay. And then put the dimension on this one, which is 60. And the angle, you get the angle into this one. Now I should not have done it on the right plane. I've made that mistake. Oh, no, sorry, right plane is correct. That's not a flat parallel plane, so you can't do it there. Must do it on the right plane. I'm going to select this edge here. So I have to go to vertex for both. Not edge, vertex. I'm going to merge that. Did it from right plane profile and contour use as a cut. Yes, you could do that too. I think you're talking about the indent, which, yeah, would be easier too. You could just do this. This is probably quicker. Through all, just cut like that. Yeah, either way. Don't mind that, if that's what you're referring to, I'd say. All right, last bit here, the ladle at the bottom. So right plane. So this is the one here. We want to do we want to go this line into the middle, down, and then we want a circle. We want these to match, equal, trim that away, make this 40, and then get this collinear, and that fully defines that bottom section. And then we're going to revolve. No, we're not going to close it. We're going revolving around this, our 5 millimeters, and we're going to merge it And that is it. With our answer being 592.4. All right. 1, 2, 3, 6 features. Pretty neat. Very good model, Toby. Nice, tricky tools on that one. Any model that is a push in the competition, I think is pretty good. So nice work. What did you guys think? Let me know. Our next one, tier 6. This is a good one. I've seen this before. A lot of people, I think, had seen this before. And it is multi-body, which I really like. Now let's have a look at the approaches from the guys. And we'll see how they finished with these ones. I believe it was a win to... Yeah, it does. I think Dom won this one. Yeah. All right. So even though Toby's image is covering up a bit of Ricardo here, we can see in the feature trees there's quite a lot going on in this one, which is what you expect with a tier 6 model. Let me just see if we get a little bit later. No, back here. Come on. All right, there we go. Okay, so their approaches. Again, very similar. You see sweeps. I think the interesting thing on Dom is split that tube fair. Lots of cuts, sweeps, mirror. It looks like Ricardo used a couple of indent tools. Delete keep bodies feature, a mirror down there. I can't see how he done the cuts at the end. So I'm not 100% sure. Like I can see he's done the delete keep body and split. Actually, that's what he's done. He's done 2 indents. 2 indents, delete keep bodies, probably to remove the bits that were inside, the little bits that were left over after that, and then mirrored to the other side. Where I was saying in the chat here on this one, this is where you need to use a sweep cut, because any more than 1 indent at a time, sweep cut can do as many as you need in one go. All right, and that's what Dom's got. So Dom the Pro here, cut sweep. He's nailed it with that feature down here. I think the way that the guys sort of started off with the sketching this one, I agree with pretty much all this. Like, interesting that Ricardo did the front bend first, and this is where there's probably a few ways to do it. Like we know in SolidWorks, there's multiple ways to do everything, but like with a 3D profile like this, it's probably 3, 4, 5 different ways that you can do that. Which one's going to be quicker? I'd say I did extruded body so I can make 3D sketch for the tubes, then the bench and rest, then indent for fun, and delete bodies clean up. Cheers, I'd say. Thanks for joining. Great to have you, mate, and good luck on Friday. So yeah, I do mind Dom's here because he's done like 1 and then he's just joined on like a bit at the end. I actually think that's probably the way to do it. I think in the example that I've done, I think it's a bit overly complicated and it slows things down. So I definitely like the way Dom's done that one. He's also then done, you can see that he's converted that sketch profile for the sweep to do the secondary inside tube. All right, and then deleting some other sketches. You'll get there, mate. Yeah, he's nailed that second sketch. So, like, Dom's in a very strong position here. They're both very similar. All right, they've both got both solid bodies. Dom's just slightly ahead with the mirror, but Ricardo's already starting on the bench seats. If you can read the dimensions or remember the dimensions for how these bench seats are, though, it makes it very quick, because the bottom and the back of the bench seats are actually aligned with the center of the tubes. And if you can remember that, it saves you a bit of time. So it is important to dimension them, get them in the right spot, because if they're not in the right spot, then the cut or the indent that goes into those benches is going to mean that your mass properties are off, and it's going to be an incorrect value in the end. So Dom's here, yep, he's doing his sweep cut. Selected the profile. He's done both bodies. He's just checking the detail. Looking good. Just trying to work out what he was doing right at the end. Same swept cut. So you could do a mirror there, and that's where you could do the mirror on the benches. But he's got his answer, and I think his answer was right. Same time as Utse. If Utse was right. But yeah, so really neat profiles, some profile work, process flow from both guys here. Experts, plenty to learn from. So let's have a look at how we would do this one. And my first attempt, I think there's definitely some ways to clean up my first attempt. The answer 730.6 is right. I took too long to get to, I think, this first sweep here. I ended up doing it with like a 3D sketch after already creating, I'm going to show here. I did an overly complex sketch at the start with the bench seats in it as well. I think those bench seats I should have left out and done them separately. It would have just been quicker. My sweep was good enough, but I did like Dom's approach to do that curve part separately, so I would change that. There's a neat trick for that I'm going to show, where when you do this sweep, you actually don't need to create a new plane for it. You can just sketch from the front plane and use the existing geometry here to sweep around. So you only need to create this bottom section. All right, so we'll do that. I did do the seats in half though, which means do half and then mirror them. And again, to Utse's point earlier, I could actually mirror and merge those, and that would save me a bit of time. So if I go merge solids, if I remove this body here and just merge these ones, that works. And then I can do a separate mirror just for this one. I don't need any of those combined features then. That's going to save me quite a bit of time. So these two bodies become ABS. And this armrest, no, that's the main body, plain carbon steel. All right. Cool. So let me take you through the process. I even had two planes in here, which we don't need. We definitely don't need. me hide that sketch as well. Okay, so we're going to start with this one on the right plane. Now, one thing you can do, which can make things easier to do, like the round sweep, is to start with one plane that comes off to the side to get the frame center. So that's a 29 inch offset. And then that's the plane that we're going to start our sketch on. So for this sketch, if we want to do all of the tube in one, we can. What we want to do is get the main sections in place and then add the radiuses and then add the splits. So this is the shape. Now I've got to go through and add those dimensions. So I've got the 10 here, 30, and then we're looking for some dimensions. So we've got 80. See, my scale's well off here, so I'll have to do some fixing up. Center to center of this is 50. This is 10. Now I think once we get those dimensions, we're ready for some radiuses. So the radius for these two curves down here is actually my front view, it's 12. Okay, and that's useful because this one to the center of the start of the bend is 48. So that's an important one to have. Then you have a 3 mil here, 3 inch, and then a 6 here. And you need those to get the 8 for this one. Right, so that's our sketch profile done, but we want to put in some other points. One of those points we want to put in, or split points, we want to split this one here, where that radius is, which is 12. Okay, and one, you could even make that for construction. Right, that's going to help us when we do the sweep for that one to stop at the straight section. And then down the bottom here, we want to do another split. Kind of want to do 2 splits, but I think that would take too long to work out. Right, so we just put one of them in, which is the 42. All right, the other one we'll just work out manually afterwards. Okay, and now we'll leave that as is. So that's our sketch. All right, so we're going to now do a swept boss base. Circular profile. We're going to right click here and go selection manager, and we're going to select these. Now I should have press this button. That's going to select the rest of that edge. Press the tick. This one's going to be 3 mil with a thin feature that's 0.5 to the inside. That's the first one. And then I'm going to show that I'm going to select that same sketch, but I'm going to do this time this one only up to this point, and then I'm going to extrude afterwards 8 millimeters or 8 inches, sorry. So that's the profile. This one's going to be solid. Make sure it's unmerged. And so when I look here at this face, I just want to grab that and offset this one 8. This is getting me this pink point down here, the distance the solid bar is sticking into the tube. Right. So that's those first 2 parts of the tube. Now on the front plane, I can do a sketch here where I can get these to align. No, that's not the right one. I'm going to get that endpoint and that coincident. And I want to get this in line with the origin. I want to get this one and this one horizontal. Even tangent. And bring this one down to this point here. If I can get that on this point, just got to change my view. Coincident. All right, so that's the path. I'm going to do sweep. My profile, I want to use this face. Thought I could use that face. I thought that's how I saw Dom do it. You know what? Let's go back and just see exactly how he did this detail. This is the one thing I wanted to pick up from Dom on this, because I thought it was a really handy move. So what you can see what Dom had to do here, he cut it down. He's sketched in his radius. I wonder if he's got it on that plane. Did he create a plane there? He has. That's his front plane. Okay. That was pretty smart from Dom. So that saved him. So instead of his front plane here, his front plane's on that back face. Yeah, that would be good. I was trying to do this without doing a sketch profile, but we can do it. I'll just show you how. Like, we can still do this feature, just a bit different to what I was suggesting. Can I select this face? Interesting. It's not saying it's a flat face. It's not letting me select that face at all. I would have expected that this face here I'd be able to do something with. Really interesting. Okay. I'm going to have to move my sketch. Let's see if I can do this without breaking things. Main thing is this origin point here. We're going to move all of this across to get this stay on the origin, but this line become in line with it. All right, great point from Dom. We will use that to our advantage now, because here, well, let's just see what he did. So he cut that face, and I think that allowed him to do the sketch profile for the curve section. We'll just see through here. He's able to select that face because he's cut it. Whereas it's a sweep here, so it's not straight. Sweep thin. Just check here, align with end faces. thought I'd be able to sketch on that face, but I can't. Okay. We don't have to sketch because we can just do the same thing with this one. We can just do a sweep, circular profile, 3 with a thin feature, 0.5, just make sure it's inside and merging. As long as it merged, we're good. And now that looks okay. Some bug going on here visually in SolidWorks, that's all right. Okay, so that's the first 2 bodies, and then it's the seats. So then on the seats, we can go our right plane, and we just need to do our rectangle shapes. So it is 24 by 4, and another one here, 4 by 24. They have some radiuses on them, which is 2 on the fronts and top. And then there's some dimensions for those. And we're looking at this dimension here to the back, 14. And what about the height of that one? 17 bench to bench. Right, so that's pretty good. I'm going to extrude that one 29. Make sure that's not merged. And then the sweep here, we want to use the same sweep to do a swept cut. 3. Selecting these 2 bodies. And then we're ready for our mirror. So we're just mirroring the bodies that are going to merge. And then a separate mirror for the body that's not merging. Then it is a time for the materials. So these 2 armrests are the aluminium. These 2 cushions are the ABS. And then this one is the plain carbon steel. Do we have the right answer? I'm not sure. 730.6. We're good. All right. Another tutorial done. Some good tips from Dom. Interesting there to pick up the inability to sketch on the end face of the swept fin. Pretty rare I'd need to do that. But definitely aligning that front plane with that back pole made that step a lot easier. So I think that's the good takeaway from this one. Thank you, Dom. All right, we have 2 tutorials left. And I'm going to grab a very quick drink. Fill up my drink. Be right back. 1 minute. All right, back to it. How you going, guys? Whoever is watching, all of 2 viewers, thank you. I would do this to no one and then record it and post it later, but it is good to have some people tuning in. If you've got any questions, 1 viewer, let me know. I'd love to help. Anything you're stuck with. All right, this model, next model, was this tray, Wet Boots Matte. And I love this one. It was very quick, definitely compared to the last couple. So let's see how the guys did it. I think it's a short one overall, so we'll just watch in real time, 2x speed, and see how these guys went about it. And I'll give you some comments throughout. So both guys, I think we skipped it with Dom, but both are drawn the whole profile, or the whole outer profile of the mat or the tray. And then they're both into getting basically the section view done to use as some sort of sweep, I would suggest. And both, similar process here. I'd say the main thing with Ricardo's issue is he should have done he should have recognized that as an offset sketch. And so you can see where he's done those 4 dimensions that are all the same. If he'd just sketched it and done 1 dimension, he would have been done. Whereas with Dom's approach, Dom's left out the hollow section underneath. So he's going to have to come back and do a secondary process to get that in. I think this is where he might have lost this one. I think he did have some issues with the menu stuff. That really sucks, losing the command manager. He got it back. But yeah, you can see at this step here now he has to go underneath and separate it. Meanwhile, Ricardo is about to do the sweep. He's got the whole path in there. Okay. So, yeah, Dom doesn't have that little section underneath. Now, it's easy enough for both of them to fill that section. Very quick. Ricardo, I think he's about to put his first answer in, which he does. He's wrong. He's just ever so slightly off. I think that comes back to his first dimensions. Meanwhile, Dom's using a shell here. The shell is okay, but then he has to still go back and fill in that bottom section. I didn't quite have it here in the chat. I wasn't actually doing it at the time. But I think the process that I'm about to show you will be really quick as well. So let's see what Ricardo does here to identify his issue. He's just doing some measurement checks. Pardon the ad. Skip. Let's get that video quality up. All right, so he's just having to update his dimensioning. He was just ever so slightly off. That made the difference, got it to the right position. You can see here, Dom's still mucking around with that shell. All right, so because he didn't have that in that original sketch, he's had to go back. He's doing a shell, a boss extrude. He's still got some faces there that are killing him. Meanwhile, Ricardo's got the answer. He was very neat. So well done, Ricardo. So this is going to be the quickest tutorial of the stream. We jump in. Let's have a look. So I've done it very similar to Ricardo. I think Ricardo had sketch, sweep, and extrude. I've done a sketch, sweep, a delete face, and a mirror. This would be one of those where you shave seconds off depending on how quickly you can hit certain functions or buttons on the screen. It's one of those super fast ones. So let me show you my process for this. Now, I recognize pretty quickly on this one that the symmetry and the profile means you just have to do one of each. You don't have to do like all 4 sections. So from the top view, looking at that sketch, and we can see it is 16, so we go 8, and then half of 27, we go 27 divided by 2. That's our profile, and then it's got a nice radius on the outside, and the radius is 3. All right, and we can actually grab these two and make them for construction. All right, and then we're onto the front view. And now here we're just sketching exactly what we can see here, but in this sketch, you can see the 0.125s are all there and the 1 mil height. So it's just a matter of getting your dimensions right. And just drawing a little part on the end, like that, so that when you do an offset, okay, it's got something there. Now I'm going to scale that up and just bring this back, bring this across, bring this across. All right, so I grab that, offset, 0.125, and I'm not going to cap ends, just press OK. All right, I'm going to bring this line down, sketch in one here on the end. This one, the position doesn't really matter, it just has to be there. And then I'm putting one here, trimming that off. I want to make sure that's horizontal. Also want to get this one to pierce. So if you can't do it by getting it coincident with the line, get it to pierce like that. And now dimensions. So we're going 0.5. And we lose a bit there, we just drag it across. 0.875. And 1.375. Bring this line back. Okay, if you want to just put a line in there, that's fine. That's your profile. So we've got our section. We're going to use our sweep to do that shape. And now that's already got all the inside done for us. And to the Toby note, do not merge tangent faces. Do not merge tangent faces. That's an option here, which if you check that, you see it makes this kind of curve here, and the weight I think would be different. It says 0.2901. Uncheck. 0.2902. Minor difference. Right, to fill in the bottom, delete face. Even select tangency, okay. And then double mirror. So mirror, mirror, body, merge, tick, done. The correct answer, 2.312. Love that model. I'd be very happy getting that one in the competition. Super quick. Okay, and that takes us on to the last model of the night and the deciding one, which I thought this was a bit of an easier one in the comp for the day, but that's okay. That's just the Wheel of Fate, or Wheel of Fate, Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Fate, to get an easy one last. It was good to have no, no Ivan exploits on this one. So there's definitely some room for some efficiencies to be gained on the use of the pattern features. For a couple of those holes. For the holes on the sides, the legs on the bottom, the hole on the top. Let's skip through and just see the end result, the feature trees. So Ricardo, well done Ricardo, grabbing the win on this one. He's got main boss extrude with a shell, 2 more extrudes, and then 2 cuts. Very nice model. Meanwhile, Dom got into, there's a sheet metal feature there, I'm not sure why. He got the main shape, but you can see he's still, like, he's done a couple of the cuts on the side, but he was up to the legs. And you can even see on this, like, the dimensioning that Dom used, I think for these legs, and I think for the holes on the sides, a little bit inefficient. And that's probably where he lost this battle. So it's a bit around efficiency. So both similar process to start. I actually quite like Ricardo's use of the shell and then just filling in the line. I think it's quicker than doing like the different cuts, the extra sketch that Dom had to do at this point. Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't use a mirror in this one. I think you could do it without. So Ricardo's process here for the legs, reasonable. He's gone from the outside. You could just as easily do dimension from the inside. The main thing that I want to point out on this is the way that Dom's done his circles on the left. So he's done one hole and he's just dimensioned 4 of them, added the dimension for each, added a construction line from end to end. But now he has to line up each of them and then dimension each of them separately. You could do one cut and pattern it and you're done if you get the one in the right spot. I think which might be the quicker way of doing it. The holes on the top, I think both reasonable for guys. Circular sketch pattern. Ricardo made a bit of a blue here, just extruded instead of cut, but that's pretty, he fixed it in like a second once he saw it at the end. So that was pretty impressive. You can see Dom's used the circle, extra circle, that sketch pattern, which I used in mine. And we see here, I think we just missed it, the way Ricardo's done those next holes on the side. Okay, he's done one hole, dimension, dimension, selected a hole, sketch pattern. So 4, cut. Super fast. Yeah, linear pattern, very quick. And then he's done. So this is the example where, like at the pointy end of the competition, where the little efficiencies are the bits that matter to get it done fast. All right, so the answer is 63.9 kilos. We'll have a look now at the tutorial. When I started, I actually started with the feet, as you can see here. But you can do it either way. And perhaps starting with the front is easier. So you might go front view and then center rectangle and just get this whole shape done straight away. So 336 by 280. Get those radiuses in and then extrude the whole depth, which was 430. And shell was 10. You don't even need to change your views to get to this point. Sketch on that back wall, rectangle, 20, drop it, dimension, 80, extrude, up to surface, edge. So I did all that without even changing my view. That's definitely an efficient way of doing it. Then on the bottom face, I was inclined to do like a center point one like this, like 350, 200, your rectangle, and then get it lined up, and then drop a hole on each one. I think this is reasonably quick to do. Like I'm selecting midpoints and lining everything up, and then putting my holes in. So I'm doing 30. Oh, or you could do mirror for this. You just got to get them all equal and then just get the length right. Merge it, make sure it's going the right way, and that's pretty good. Then on the side, just want to get the sketch right. Now the hole's 40. It's 50 from this bottom edge, and it's 80 from this side edge. And then if you've got a shortcut bar here, you should have linear pattern on there, which I don't have. So let's do that. Got my little shortcut bar here. I want to add on linear sketch. Right there. All right, so I want to be able to select this, go linear sketch pattern, go 80, flip that, okay, cut through all, okay. Pretty quick. And then our very last one, hole on the top. The hole detail was 100, 120, 6. With that hole selected, we can go circular pattern. Got to select this circle, or that hasn't done it right. Yeah, circular pattern issues. The point I want to go around is here. Entity pattern is this. Okay. Turn that off. I do not love circular pattern, but I'd be reasonably comfortable that I could get it done fast enough. Is that in line? It all looks in line. So then you're extruding cut. Just blind. 20 is enough. And then you are done. 63.9 kg. All right. And that is going to be it. What a session. Well done to those guys. Don Ricardo, I'd say, and Matab. Some great challenges, some great models. If we have a look at those files, we'll try and think through the things that we picked up in the session. I think that the use of the pattern tool is probably the one that comes through most on there. And like, while you could do an indent on that, let's look at this tile vertically. While you could do an indent on a couple of them, might not have been like the best example, best place to use it. Indent's a great tool, but not necessarily like the most efficient, quickest, fastest. Yeah. Anyone in the chat or viewed, been on the stream, have any questions from those examples today? I enjoyed the process. I think I picked up a few little things to use in the future. Look forward to trimming this down and posting the tutorials onto the practice models once Toby gets those up on his website. Yeah, good process. We got through it all that in 2 hours. I actually thought it would take a bit longer. So thank you to anyone that has watched the session or jumped in for the replay afterwards. Like to do more of these throughout the year. I'll try and schedule them in. So if you are, well, I'm just seeing who's left in the chat. If you are interested in seeing any of these, please jump either in my Discord where I'll post when live streams are coming up. Obviously, subscribe to the channel, you'll see them that way. Or jump into the Fully Defined School community that I have. There's a calendar in there, which I'll be posting planned live streams and for different topics. And that school community is a place where I can sort of bring all this learning lessons together, including all the Lego stuff that I've done that you may have seen around on some YouTube videos as well. Hey Monty, thanks for your comment, mate. So new to SolidWorks always face issues with end conditions, which makes you slow down. Sure, I'm happy to help. Could you be a bit more specific with what you're having trouble with? End conditions, the way you use it, kind of depends like where you're getting to, right? Blind, straight up, okay? And your end conditions are going to change depending on the direction of your extrude as well. So when I'm going up this way, I only get certain options. If I was going different direction, options might change. All right. Also, the type of sketch that you have can be an issue. And if you're doing something like I just bring this to the side, like let's say I was doing a circle here and I'm trying to do an extrude and I was doing something that was, let's say it's offset up here and I want to come down and I want to go up to surface. Like depending on that, if I'm trying to use a surface as an end condition, sometimes that can cause issues if it makes a geometry that's not going to work. All right. It remembered last end condition used. Yep. Yeah, that's a standard like default thing in SolidWorks. I don't know if there's a change or a place where you can actually change that setting, but you can have a look at your settings in SolidWorks. Here, options. So these are your system options. So system options will be the same across all of your files, and document will be just for that file that you've got open. System options is the one you want to look at. Is there anything here on end conditions, I wonder? No, it doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, I think for most people that are experienced with SolidWorks, that just becomes like the example, right? If you do an extrude and you do a certain distance, you just get used to it. Here, I'm trying to show. If I'm extruding this 100 millimeters, and then I'm starting a sketch here, I'm doing a cut, it's going to have 100 millimeters in there. Sometimes it's useful, other times not. Probably the thing you can do is just get used to changing that quickly to whatever you need, or using the right click here to change your directions. So you can go through all both, etc. Direction 2 is off, so it's not going anywhere. That kind of thing. Thanks for your question though. If you want to hit me up for anything more specific, please leave a comment or jump in the Discord that's linked on my channel or in the school community and you'll be able to reach me there. All right, so I think we'll leave it there. Thank you much, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of the stream. And big thank you to Toby to Talk Toby for his competition, these models, putting everything together, getting these runners out to give us all great experience that we can learn from. I really enjoy the process. I'm sure I think there's 60,000 other people that do too from his subs. So, and Monty, you're most welcome, mate. I'll see everyone soon. Have a good one.